Our claims of genocide against the Rohingya people are back before the International Court of Justice. But first, the court must decide who can give evidence: Myanmar's military or the country's shadow civilian government. And for more on this, Chris Sidoti, human rights lawyer and a member for Special Advisory Council Myanmar, joins us now. Mr. Sidoti, the larger issue as proceedings start today should surely be justice for the Rohingya, and until we reach that, protection for them. Now, does it really matter who represents them if what we are focused on is justice and protection for the Rohingya people?
It certainly matters. It matters a great deal. There is the world of difference between the position taken by the military and the position taken by the National Unity Government. The military continues to deny even the existence of the Rohingya people in Myanmar. It denies the events that took place in 2017, the massacres, the expulsions, the arbitrary detentions that occurred, and the torture, particularly the sex and gender-based violence inflicted on women and girls. So the military continues to be in total denial. The National Unity Government, on the other hand, accepts the existence of the Rohingya people, has promised them full citizenship in Myanmar, and is willing to assist the court in its examination of the events that occurred in 2017. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the military is using every delaying trick in the book to spin out this court hearing. The case this week is to hear preliminary objections that the military has raised. The National Unity of Government has said that it makes no objections. It accepts the jurisdiction of the court. It wants the case to be heard fully as soon as possible. So for those two reasons alone, the Rohingya people are best served by having the National Unity Government appear in the court and the military put on trial rather than defending the case.
Mr. Sidoti, with Aung San Suu Kyi not present and bearing in mind the UN recommendations from 2019 against Min Aung Hlaing and against the 5 generals that they ought to be prosecuted, how far then would that put into question the legitimacy of any outcome should the military end up representing the country in this case?
Well, one of the problems is precisely that. It raises questions about the legitimacy of the result, but it also raises questions about whether the result is even binding. The military is not the government of Myanmar. It is not the legitimate government, and it's not even the de facto government. It does not control the territory of Myanmar, and it is incapable of governing. So the idea of the military appearing raises significant issues about whether the court's judgment will even be binding on Myanmar when Myanmar is not being represented by its government.
Mr. Sidoti, I return you to your answer to the first question, which was a suggestion that NUG might do better in terms of defending the rights of the Rohingya. Well, Ms. Suu Kyi represented Myanmar in when she spoke for the military, defending military actions when she appeared before the ICJ. And when provisional measures to protect the Rohingya was proposed in January 2020, very little was done in that time between then and when the coup took place February last year. Now, if the NUG is critical of the Myanmar military now, you might say they have cynical interest to be so. What makes you think that should the NUG be in charge, things would change really for the Rohingya?
The position taken by Aung San Suu Kyi in 2016, 17, 18, 19 and so forth was truly shocking. There was no other way to describe it. That was the period of the coalition government between the National League for Democracy and the military. And it was shocking that the National League for Democracy side of the government was prepared to go before international forums, including the International Court of Justice, and defend the position of the military. Those days have gone. They have certainly gone because the military attempted its coup on the 1st of February last year, displacing the properly elected government and parliament of Myanmar, attempting to displace, but not in fact succeeding in overthrowing them. The National Unity Government has been able to re-examine that period and come to a very different assessment of what occurred, and it is prepared to take a different position. And to me, that's very encouraging. I have been encouraged by what they have said. I think that there has been true contrition for what occurred, a great deal of embarrassment and regret for the position taken by the coalition government and by Aung San Suu Kyi herself, and a willingness to try to repair the damage that was done, to bring justice to the Rohingya people. Now, that is a hope. It's a hope founded on the statements of the National Unity Government. So far as the military is concerned, there is no hope. And so it's not a difficult choice to say we should go with the NUG and give them a chance to put their words into action, to take the test of action. But we know that there is no prospect at all of any contrition, any change of mind on the part of the military.
Mr. Sidoti, what I hear you say there is that there is perhaps this added urgency as well for this case, because it's going to lay the groundwork for accountability in Myanmar. How far do you feel that that is true, bearing in mind the amount of violence that we have seen in the past year in the anti-coup crackdown?
Well, the situation in Myanmar has got worse and worse. The actions of the military are consistent now going back 60 years. So in many respects, their actions aren't surprising, but certainly the crisis in Myanmar at the moment is profound and it affects the country as a whole. So there is a need of urgency. There is a need for the international community as a whole to move away from the military and to do everything possible to support the democratically elected government of Myanmar. That government is pledged to bring justice to the Rohingya, amongst other things, and I hope they have an opportunity of doing that. But the situation in Myanmar is certainly a situation of crisis, and that crisis lies at the door of the military. It's their responsibility, the responsibility of Min Aung Hlaing and his other generals, and they're the ones who should be in The Hague. They're the ones who should be before the International Criminal Court being tried for their atrocities.
Thanks for that, Chris Sidoti from the Special Advisory Council for Myanmar.